Thank you everyone for joining. I know a lot of you will have signed in for the previous one of these sessions, which was AI in publishing. So this is part of a series that we're running, and there's one more to come, which is AI in marketing. So today's session is titled AI in Operations. So how AI tools are being deployed to improve efficiencies, reduce cost, and accelerate processes. And for those of you joining one of these for the first time, so Renewed is the open community for leaders of recurring revenue media and events businesses. My name is Robin Crumby. I'll be hosting today's session. I'm the founder of a couple of businesses, Academy, and before that, Melcrum. I'm also the co-chair of Renewed Europe. Please can everyone keep themselves on mute to minimize any background noise, and please do turn your cameras on if you can. I know it makes a big difference for us to see everyone's smiling faces and to know you're out there. In terms of questions, I would encourage everyone to ask as many questions as you can using the chat function on the right, and we'll try and get through those as many as possible in the Q&A at the end of the session. Rob is also kindly making his slides available afterwards, so don't need to write everything down. Just to get started, I'd like to introduce you to today's guest, Rob Stuart. Rob is the Vice President and Chief Digital Officer for the NEJM Group. I first met Rob at the Renewed Summit in Arlington, Virginia a few weeks ago on our AI roundtable, and we've had some interesting conversations off the back of that. So Rob is going to kickstart the discussion with a few slides that he's prepared, and then we'll get into the Q&A afterwards. So Rob, over to you.
Great. Okay. Thank you, Robin, and just thanks to the whole Renewed community for facilitating these kinds of discussions. I'm trying to learn a lot here too about what we can all do around artificial intelligence. And for those who don't know me, in my role as Chief Digital Officer for the NEJM Group, I'm really responsible for facilitating all the strategic and execution of our strategy and the strategic discussions, collaboration between our business teams and our technology teams to make sure that we're prioritizing the right things to advance our overall growth strategy, and that we're investing in the right types of technology and prioritizing the right projects using those technologies to best enable our strategy. So I sort of sit in that space between the business and the technology teams. All of our technology teams and all of our technology investments do report up through me into our executive team. So that's kind of where I sit. So I'm really excited to do this today. So please feel free to ask a lot of questions in the chat. I'm trying to learn too. I think we're all kind of grappling with some of the new offerings that are out there. And Robin and I were talking about how every day you open your email or turn on your computer or go to TikTok or wherever you go, and it's just everything's about AI. So it is a bit overwhelming. So hopefully this will be a good discussion today. I want to start out, if I can, if it'll work, just telling everybody a little bit very quickly about who the NEJM Group is and what it does. So our mission is to advance medical knowledge, and our flagship product, many of you may know it, the New England Journal of Medicine, top medical journal in the world. And we're really publishing in the journal space, in literature surveillance, and in education, kind of makes up our portfolio. And what we've tried to do in the last few years is look at other spaces in addition to the way we lead around the world's best clinical research with NEJM. Where else can we have that leadership voice in healthcare? And so we've launched some other journals that really are sitting at the core of kind of larger media strategies that we have in each of these areas. And so we launched a journal called NEJM Evidence that's really about improving clinical trial research, design and decision-making. We have a publication journal, peer-reviewed journal called NEJM Catalyst that's really about leading in the healthcare delivery space and healthcare innovation, improving quality, access, and affordability of care. And we're in December, we're launching our fourth title, NEJM AI, because we feel that the research, the quality of the research that's being done in the AI space in healthcare is needs a place to be gathered and to be peer reviewed. And we feel like that's a place where we really can lead. So we'll be launching that in December. We have Journal Watch, which we've had for a very long time, which is in the literature surveillance space. So we go out and surveil 200 or so journals and pick the most clinically relevant topics. So you start thinking about where AI could help us, and there's plenty of places within workflow for our journals that we're looking at AI. Certainly for something like Journal Watch, where we're scanning for the best research and we're writing summaries. Think of the different ways that AI could help us with that. And then, though everything we do is education, we do have some particular education products. Knowledge Plus, which is an adaptive learning product that's for lifelong learning and for helping people get and maintain different certifications that they need to practice. Resident 360 is sort of for young clinicians, and it's really our way to bring younger people into our family, into the brand, begin to engage and see the value of NEJM and hopefully become a lifelong loyalist of our products. And Healer is a new product for us, an adaptive clinical reasoning product with lots of case scenarios and things that you can work through. And this is another place that's really ripe for us using AI to help us scale the number of cases that we have in there. So that's just who we are and what we do, and some ideas of where AI might help us out to be more efficient, to scale more quickly. And then another way to think about things is kind of what our portfolio looks like from a revenue point of view, and it is diversified between individual subscriptions and continuing medical education. We have a very large site license business. So when many of us were together in Arlington, there was a lot of talk about kind of getting into that B2B licensing space and transitioning more into those larger sort of enterprise-wide deals. We've been doing that for about 20 years and have built a really significant business there that in some ways competes with our B2C business. But if you add those two things up together and think about those two as recurring revenue, we've continued to be able to grow the overall pie there. And I think as you think about enterprise subscriptions, that's what you want to be doing. And then we also have a very significant, more traditional media business around advertising and sponsorships and classified advertising for physician recruitment. And I show this because as you think about AI, for me, a lot of this is about prioritization and about jobs to be done for your customers, whether those are your paying customers, your registered users. I sometimes, working with technology, our internal staff are a type of customer to me. So I'm always trying to think about where both internally and externally we can do things better, and kind of what the trade-offs are of investing or prioritizing in your recurring revenue business or in your more variable media business. So it's one way to sort of think through what those trade-offs might be as you try to prioritize technology. The other way to try to think about prioritizing around experimenting with AI and where you might invest more significantly, I think it's important to have a set of principles around growth, things you do and don't do, or things you want to really focus on. And these are ones that we follow. And as I think about how I'm trying to help facilitate and prioritize the experiments and the investments that we'll make in different types of artificial intelligence technology, I try to run through this list. And for us, it is about content and quality content. I think it is for most of us here. That becomes even more and more important in a world where you have things like Bard and ChatGPT and others that are really commoditizing content. Whether they're using your content or not, for me, doesn't really matter, because there are good enough answers there. And what we all want to be is better than good enough. And we want to have people continue to see the value in coming to us for the quality content that we produce. So that has to remain job one. And I think it's even more important in the environment that we're in now. And then I think making sure we're all investing in engineering and product development so we can surface that content and make it really discoverable so we can compete. And how can AI help us do those things? Just in general for us, we're trying to look at NEJM.org more as a destination platform for all of that portfolio of products that I showed you, as opposed to being just about issues of the digital issues of the New England Journal of Medicine. And how do we do that? And how do we think about bringing using AI and other tools to bring all that content together in a more cohesive way? And then we tend to think of ourselves as subscriber first. So we want to be an essential subscription. And whether that is to the flagship or to any of our other journals or products, I don't particularly care. But I want us to be essential to someone in whatever way they want to interact with us. And so that direct relationship with our reader and thinking about how AI can make that better or easier. Because making use of the limited time that people have, to me, is critical. Easier is always going to be better. And if it's easy, then you can surface more content. You can extend the engagement once you have people. So thinking of how using artificial intelligence tools can do that for you is really important. And two last things, just so as you listen to me talk, there may be things you think, well, why aren't they doing this? Or why haven't they thought of that? For us, quality always takes preference over commercial interests. We're about trust, quality, leadership, and the brand. And so there are certain things that we could do, but we're not going to do because they're more important things for us than driving every nickel that we can. And certainly we then look at advertising as a subscriber first business, and we think about trying to prioritize. The advertising should always follow the quality content. We're building for our readers, we're building for our subscribers. So I show this just for people to think about, well, what their own principles of growth might be and how they might apply that to this area. So we're looking at, I think, all the same things that everybody else is thinking about here. We're doing an AI summit in September. I've read a lot of organizations have started to pull things like this together. So bringing together editorial teams, business teams, and technology teams to talk about various use cases that people have either thought of, people have started to experiment with, or people would like to get some level of investment in order to do more. And they sort of fall into these buckets for us around new revenue streams, which could be through existing content that you have parsed and offered up in different ways, or creating new content. Then there's clearly lots to do around automation and efficiency to free people up to do higher value work. Personalization, customer insights. What more can we learn about the folks who are visiting our digital properties and how they're working with us, and how can we offer up the right things to keep people engaged with us? Customer service clearly is an important area. I don't have marketing on here so much. I sort of have that maybe part of customer insights and personalization. To Robin's point, there's a whole other session coming up on marketing. So I'm not going to spend much time on that today, other than to say that that's an area where we've done a lot of experimenting, and there's a lot of upside, I think, for us in marketing, and I think for all of us. I read this email newsletter from Axios, and it's called AI Plus with a plus sign, and I recommend that. If you don't read anything from Axios, you should. They have some great stuff, and they just launched this AI Plus newsletter, I don't know, a month ago or so. And the other day they were talking about different case studies and different tools people were using. And so I just sort of clipped this from them. I can't I can't vouch for very many of these tools, but I like the way that they organized it around writing, searching, transcribing, creating, presenting, and then tools for audio and video production. So I thought it was just a nice way to group, and would be, so here are some things that people could look up and check out, that a lot of the Axios readers were using. So all of this comes with risk. Nothing's easy. And these are some of the areas that we're worried about, or that we're focused on, certainly around privacy and security of both our employee data and our customer data, and compliance issues that we have, especially as you think about people putting IP or financial information out into public, into a public chatbot. Nobody should do that. Samsung, for instance, got in a lot of trouble for, they were putting full financials out there and asking them to write annual reports for them. Don't do that. If you want to do things like that, the new the Llama 2 from Meta allows you, as open source, and allows you to create your own instance of that chatbot. We haven't experimented with that yet, but that's the sort of thing, if you really want to start playing around with anything of proprietary in nature, then I'd highly recommend you don't put anything out in one of the public bots. As we think about, we're going to talk a little bit about HR when Rob and I get together to do our chat, and really, we're concerned to make sure that anything we're using there, whether we're screening resumes or building job descriptions, to make sure that we're aware of that there can be issues there with bias or with fairness. I think a big topic for all of us is change management. People are worried. We were talking in our prep call about this AI summit that I'm organizing, and we have concern inside the organization. Well, are people coming for this is about people coming for our jobs, and this is not what this is about. And I think we need to reassure folks that I think we're really trying to do is, at least for us, is to free people up to work on higher value activities to help drive growth. And it isn't about the robots coming and taking over. I think there are places when we look at some of the things that we outsource right now to sort of expand the teams that we have. There are definitely places where that sort of work, we'll need less of that going forward, I would say. But as I think about how to communicate these things to staff, I just think everyone should be aware that while we all may be thinking about it one way, staff is always thinking about, oh, are you coming for me here with this? So I think reassuring folks that that's really not what the main goal is or should be is really important. Then policies and procedures, be transparent, be accountable, make sure people understand what you are using AI for, not using AI for. And I know some folks, I know Stephanie Williford has shared some of the editorial policies that EB Medicine has put in place. We've updated our policies. I can talk a little bit about that if we get to that. We've also updated our terms of use to say that you can't crawl us without permission. We've blocked Common Crawl, which is the pile that ChatGPT was originally trained on. They have ChatGPT has a new bot that came out recently. We're in the process of working with our content delivery vendor to block that as well. And that makes, I think you should do those things. I think it makes us all feel good. I don't think it absolves us from doing the things that I talked about earlier in this presentation. People are going to go for good enough content when they can. Some of our content is already out there. We have a lot of free content as part of our mission. We know that gets ingested. You can't completely protect yourself from this. So I think you really have to go with the feeling that things are going to be out there. People are going to find ways to use your content. We have some subscribers who have been putting our content, cutting and pasting our content up into ChatGPT, having ChatGPT write programs to create, abstracts and summaries of our content, and then they're posting it online. So it's really impossible to completely protect yourself from this, but there are things that you can do to minimize, I think, at least having becoming a data input, if you will, into the training those large language models. And this is just from McKinsey, and this is my last slide, and then we'll get into it with Robin. Is just try to think about these three things: potential, people, and policies. This is what we're really doing around our summit, is really trying to identify these use cases that we think will help us meet our goals sooner and more efficiently. And then with that in mind, do we have the right structure? Do we have the right people? Do we need to train people? If we're taking manual tasks away from people and we want to upskill them, we may need to upskill them to do higher value work. And how do we support that? And then as I just hit on, what are the policies and the guardrails and the legal protections that you need? These are really the key three areas, I think, going forward. So I'm going to stop sharing, and Robin, back to you, and let's get into it.
Thanks, Rob. Really, really interesting, and lots to dig into there. Please do post your questions in the chat. I have a ton of questions, but I'd welcome anything from anyone else. So just to kind of dig into some of what Rob was talking about, I just want to return to this sort of fear factor, because I think that is very real, and I hear that in the conversations that I have with multiple businesses about how they're thinking about, potential job losses, potentially, we talk with 67 Bricks about entire revenue models and content-based businesses likely to be very disrupted by some of this technology. And I think that the conclusion from those conversations was that, if you're in a kind of low value, undifferentiated, commodity-based business model, then you're likely to be very disrupted by AI and AI produced content. Whereas I think for most of us, we work in very deep niches, we have very specialized content, and we have a rich relationship with the businesses that we work with. So I think from a kind of a revenue point of view, I think there will be a lot of change. One of the analogies that somebody shared with me was just, I started my first business in the kind of the pre-dawn of the internet. And you think about how many changes there have been over the last 25 plus years. And I think we can expect that same level of disruption. And, we can either put our heads in the sand and try and ignore it, or we can embrace it, as Rob suggests, and start getting ahead of the game. Yeah. So I think, Rob, I'd love to hear more about, how you think about generative AI, and particularly when working with non-technical audiences. Do you subscribe to this point of view that AI is like a sort of intern? It's like an assistant that still needs a lot of human guidance. So this kind of human in the loop. But how do you think about that?
I think that's true. I think Ed Coburn made a good comment in the chat that from the last meeting that we had, that AI isn't coming for your job. Someone who knows how to use AI might be coming for your job. So I think that is about how do you embrace that? How do you embrace the tools that are available to you? This is so much more democratized technology than other things that have come our way. Fads that, let's say, fads or hype that have come our way, where everybody's really able to easily experiment with this and see how it might work for their job. That's what makes it so different than, say, virtual reality or Web 3.0 or or any other new thing that's come along. What ChatGPT had a million users in 5 days. It took Netflix 3.5 years to get to 1 million users. So there's this democratization of technology that I think makes this change. So I think figuring out how to use it and how to think about that sort of human/AI partnership is really important, because, you know, we call it intelligent. It really isn't. It's really not intelligent. These large language models are just predictive models, and they're just predicting what the next word is based on the pile that it's been trained on. It does not have, you know, there's no empathy here. There's no judgment. There's no real synthesis. There's no novelty. All things that, you know, that we sort of ascribe to ourselves as humans. I think we still have an edge there. So putting the two things together, I think, is what creates the power. And trying to describe that and reinforce that in your organization, I think is really important, and really to get people thinking about how they can do the work that they do more efficiently and with higher value.
And Rob, just thinking about specific functions that are likely to be kind of most impacted by AI, I know, and I'll find the link and post it into the Guild group, but in fact, there's been multiple McKinsey studies that's looked at the impact of generative AI on, you know, customer services, sales, office support. And it seems to have landed on those as being the functions that are most likely to be disrupted. So, you know, for those teams that you're working with at NEJM Group, you know, how do you encourage them to still, you know, engage with these tools and see their potential?
I think so we'll start with customer service. So when you think about customer experience, I think people often are so focused on the front end of customer experience with the product that they're interacting with. And they kind of forget that, well, part of interacting with the product and how you feel about the product is how easy it is to work with customer service. Whether I need to change my address, or I want to change my credit card, or I want to get out of auto renew, or, hey, you know what? I have a little subscription fatigue and I'm going to take a break from your product. And I need to be able to do that easily. And sometimes we make it hard for people to do a lot of those things. So for us, we try to think about that function as a people-driven function, and that if they need to get to a person, they can get to a person. So we're trying to look at it as, well, how long does it, because we have that sort of a mentality, you know, some of our calls average 7 minutes long, which is, you know, way too long. So for us, it's more about, hey, can we make that job easier for the small team that we have? Can we get a lot of noise out of it? Can we use chatbots? Can we use keywords from emails so that we can send the right sorts of help pages to people so that they can figure out how to print an invoice themselves, or change their address, or do whatever they want to do, so that you can sort of free up your customer service people, however big that team is, to really focus on those customers who have other needs that need to be met. So that's kind of how we're thinking about it from a customer service point of view. Instead of, you know, having 3 different screens up trying to solve someone's problem over the course of 7 minutes, can we make that a 2-minute? We make that a 2-minute call and get to more people faster. That's how we've been approaching it. I don't want to live in a world where it's impossible to get to a person, or where it's impossible to do the thing I want to do with an organization. I try to, and I will tell quickly, this is kind of top of mind, because I yesterday decided I wanted to see how I got a notice through one of my subscriptions that was coming up to be renewed, my auto renew. And I thought, I wonder how easy it is to cancel. And this is a very large, well-known monthly magazine. And it's impossible to cancel your subscription. It just basically is. After a half hour, I went, the only way to cancel the subscription is to go to PayPal and take them off my, and take them off of my list. So I think we need to all look at that and think about those kinds of things and how to create a customer service environment that takes advantage of this to benefit of the customer. The other areas, Robin, like for me, marketing, sales. I sort of make a distinction between those two, really. And yeah, there are things I think from an order to pay point of view and an invoicing and doing quotes and all those sorts of things to either get to a contract commitment faster. I think AI can help there. But I think about copywriting, I think about campaign development, social media, campaign development, email deployments, sort of these really kind of low end kinds of work that marketing people in general are going to become more editors, I think, than creators over time. So I think there's going to be some real impact there, whether that's for internal staff or whether it's for some of the outsourced marketing folks that you use. I see a lot of impact there.
Rob, just going back to sales and customer services, I mean, I've seen a couple of sort of big statements coming out, particularly on this side of the pond, of big utility companies making some bold predictions about how they see workforce changes over the coming years. And I think they're reacting to, a lot of studies that show, an optimal customer service experience is one where a human is not involved, that you can do what you're trying to do yourself. And I think the same applies for sales. Culturally, British people don't like dealing with salespeople. So if you can buy something from start to finish without being sold to, that's a good experience. So and I think from a business owner's point of view, we're all about building relationships with executives at large businesses. So I think those two things are slightly, there's a bit of friction between those sort of directions of travel.
Yeah, I think it also depends too what you're trying to sell. So, and I think when you think about customer service, I totally agree from a tier 1 point of view versus a tier 2 point of view. Tier 1, yes, all those things people should be able to solve without having to talk to anybody. But it should be really easy to do, and you have to be willing to do the whole bit. So you can't just make it easy for people to renew or to buy. You have to make it easy for people to unsubscribe, for people to cancel.
Right.
You just have to do it. Now, the FTC is saying that you have to do it, but I think just conceptually, I've kind of come around to that point of view, especially when you think about how you want people to feel about your brand and your services, and know that people come in and out of things much more now than maybe they did in the past, because there are so many options. So I think if you really want to commit to that, I want people to be able to buy without ever talking to anybody, then you have to go the full distance and say, then people need to be able to unsubscribe or cancel their subscription without talking to anybody.
Yeah. And just sticking with this theme of kind of efficiency and productivity improvements, that that seems to be the holy grail of AI for a lot of functions. And there's a few analogies, whether it's a farming analogy about the tractor and the impact that had on productivity for farms, or the calculator or the personal computer. I mean, there's countless examples of tools that have come along which have been disruptive, but ultimately have been very good for productivity and efficiency. So, and just picking up on a couple of the questions, I mean, Ed Coburn, I don't know if you want to add some kind of color to your question, but about, lowest hanging fruit for applying AI in operations, where is that inefficiency that AI can help with? Ed, do you want to add anything to that?
It seems, thanks, Robin. It seems pretty self-explanatory, I guess. I'm just, curious, Rob, as you look at this, where are you seeing, what are the first things you want to do, because the benefits are just right there to be had?
Well, I think we've talked about some of it already with customer service. I think that's huge. I think that we're going to have there's a whole nother session on marketing. And I think there's a reason that there's a session on marketing, because there's so much there that you can do. We're using HR. I think there's a lot that can be done there to facilitate screening of resumes. If you haven't been doing that, writing job descriptions, doing offers, process and policy development, going through analyzing, employee survey results. There's a lot, I think, in HR where we could make some progress. On the web development side, we've been exploring. There's a lot of interest on our side, looking at the new Microsoft tools within Microsoft 360. I think it's called Microsoft Copilot and Microsoft Power Platform. So our teams have been looking at those as ways to do more work with Power BI for automation, application development, different forms around monitoring site reliability and things. So there's a lot on the tech side. We also work with a company called Expert AI, who work with our content management team. So I think there's a lot more that we can do to enhance all of our content across our products is in one content repository. It's tagged. I think we can do deeper. We're excited to do deeper tagging, working with our partner. We're excited to create more, I think, more personalization to improve discovery across the product. So if you're in one product and you're searching, I want to get to a place where we're surfacing content that are in other products and be comfortable moving people from, off of one site to another, or moving from one product. If you're in the New England Journal of Medicine and you're searching on something, but there's something that's better suited for you in one of our other products and services, even if you don't subscribe to it, I want you to go there and see that and learn about that. So I'm excited about that. And I think there's a lot that can be done there as well. We haven't used it a lot on the quality assurance side yet with our QA teams, but that's something that I really want to explore as well. I know that the engineering teams have been working with GitHub has a Copilot too, and so we're starting to look at ways to write more automation, more code using these tools too. So those are some of the areas that come to mind. I mean, for me, the biggest thing that I would like to do, if I could, is when you think about the New England Journal of Medicine, people tell us in all of our market research that the journal's pretty overwhelming, and what we really come to you for is just tell us what we need to know. And wouldn't it be great for people to just come and talk to the New England Journal of Medicine instead of having to search it and instead of having to read it? If you could come as part of a premium subscription and have a tool that allowed you to have that sort of interaction and to continually refine the question that you're asking or the research that you're trying to do with our content, and have that sort of a relationship with what we publish, that to me that's the most exciting thing to me. That's not low-hanging fruit, but that's where I think you want to get to, is how do you get that level of engagement and that level of interaction? It really provides you a way for people to have that kind of one-on-one interaction that can be refined through these tools with your content.
So Rob, I knew this was going to happen. We're going to run out of time really quickly. So can we do some quick fire questions just to get through a few more things that kind of surfaced off the back of conversations? But I did want to start with Janice's question, which is just about lessons learned about the importance of preparing content before applying AI tools. Any quick advice there?
Yes, you should do that. For sure. It's worth it to spend that time. We're in the process of doing that. We're upgrading our delivery platform. We work with a company called Adapon. Some of you may know it, some of you not. but we're moving on to a new platform there. But in order to do that, we had to go in and do a lot of cleanup and a lot of normalization of things, especially as we're trying to think about how to structure our tagging and our content to go across all of our products. Doing all of that work makes a big difference. So I would encourage you to invest in that prior to applying anything to it.
So Rob, quick fire round. So answers as short as possible, please. Do you think it's true that AI remains the solution looking for a problem?
I think that can be true if in your organization, all you're hearing is your leadership team sending email missives to the staff saying, what are we using AI for? How is AI going to save our business? Then yes, it is a solution looking for a problem. If the question being asked is, what problems do our customers have, either internally or externally, that we could solve using these tools, then no, then I think it's good.
Okay. Another quick one, leadership. I suspect I know the answer to this, but who do you think is best placed to lead the charge on AI initiatives?
That's not any. I don't think that's an easy answer. I think that what I'm seeing a lot of companies do is put a small kind of council team together to lead and prioritize. I think for me, I'm trying to lead the charge to get people thinking about this across business technology and editorial. But we have groups in place that currently are setting priorities and are looking at different tools and systems to enable our strategy. And I want AI to be seen as one possible potential solution in each of those, for each of these problems or each of these areas. So I wanted to run through that existing structure that we already have in place. So I do think it's a collaborative thing, but it does need someone to sort of push it along. It could be your CTO, it could be your CIO, it could be someone like me.
Thank you. Question from Pal. Are you planning to use auto tagging?
I'm not sure I know what you mean by auto tagging. We have semantic tags that we apply to our content on an ongoing basis. Maybe that's auto tagging.
Okay. Yeah, I wanted to ask you about skills. So what are the skills gaps that you're seeing, and how do you plan to fill them or bridge them?
I think that's different in each area, depending on what you're trying to do. So in marketing, let's say, people need to become better editors, maybe than writers. In technology, I saw some question in the chat about how do you really go about using open source AI to create your own instance and create your own proprietary pile. We haven't quite figured that out yet. And who are the best? Do we have the right developers to do that? That's a conversation that's ongoing. Do we have that technical skill set to do that? I think the ability, to Ed's point, also the ability to be a good prompt engineer as you work with AI. And I think that prompt engineers, to me, anybody can be a prompt engineer. In customer service, you could be a prompt engineer. It's how you're interacting with the tools. And so how do we help people become more skilled at doing that? And then I think the important part of the upskilling here is, if you are freeing people up to do less rote or manual work, a lot of people are comfortable doing that. And can you skill them up to do higher value work or not? I think will become a big question.
Last couple of questions. So the future, what are you most excited about?
I think I sort of answered that in a way around how do you use this technology so your customers can engage with your content however they would like to, getting to the point where your customers can talk to your content and have that kind of dialogue with your content. That's the most exciting thing to me. What that looks like, I don't exactly know. There've been some experiments that I've seen. A couple of journals have put up. There was a neurosurgery journal that put up an article that it had set up in that way that you could go in and chat with it. But I'm trying to think about something broader than that, but that's really what I'm most excited about as I think about this technology.
And lastly, what's your one takeaway or piece of advice for this audience?
I think this is still all about what jobs to be done your customers have, and that this is just one more tool in that armamentarium that you can use to do that. So don't lose the plot on what your business is, and just get excited about the tool itself.
Very good. Rob, thank you so much for a fascinating discussion. I'm sorry we've run out of time. We will be carrying this on in the Guild group. So there's a renewed community on Guild, and I think there's a link in the chat. If you've enjoyed today's discussion, we do have another one, as we've referenced, which is the implications and applications for AI in marketing, which I believe is on September the 5th with Helen and the team at MPG. So all that remains is for me to thank Rob Stuart once more, and to everyone for joining us today. We appreciate your time, and we'll be sending out the link to the recording and Rob's slides in due course. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.
Thanks. Great to see everybody. Thank you.